For anybody just tuning in out there, my name is DrLupo, and today I'm joined by 3 developers from Ubisoft Montreal, the creators of Hyper Scape, a game that, surprise, came out literally today. You guys are utilizing a lot of similar functions to a bunch of different games, but this has its own kind of flavor. But before we get to that, if we could, all 3 of you, introduce yourselves, what you do at Ubisoft, so people know who they're talking to.
I'll go first if you want. I'm Graeme Jennings. I'm the senior producer on Hyper Scape.
Hey, and I'm JC. I'm the creative director on Hyper Scape, obviously.
Hi, I'm Chris Pope. I'm a game designer working on some of the systems in Hyper Scape.
Excellent. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. I want to preface this by saying that this isn't an ad or anything like that. Ubisoft came to a bunch of content creators to say, hey, we're going to put this game out. If you would like to play it, we can get you early access so that you can get your viewers into it too, because you guys are doing the same kind of drop mechanic that Valorant had for granting access to the game, which is cool because you're scaling player involvement up on the fly, and it's going to keep on growing as people continue to stream the game and continue to watch it, which is really cool. Outside of that, the Twitch integration, I'm going to start there because this is different than what we've seen anywhere else. No other game has done Twitch integration like this, where chat is literally impacting the game. Do you want to talk about that and maybe where that inspiration came from?
Actually, this was really the starting point of the project for us. It was the notion of a game as a spectacle. We wanted to create, we noticed that we were watching more and more streams instead of playing games. And so we wanted to make a game that would allow players, streamers, and viewers to interact together. And so that was the starting point. In the technical test, again, it's the early stages, so we are testing some of the mechanics, but we want to push that even further in later stages.
And we wanted to take viewing from just being a passive experience to an active one. We really wanted to bring, viewers within that. So that's why we pushed on those kind of levers to bring that into the extension.
Is there more you have in store for the future? Because right now, while chat did choose low grav freaking every game, but yeah, they're still little jerks. Are there beyond like that kind of event-based integration? Because we've seen things like Borderlands has the ability to like scale up bad guys, and chat will heal them and make them harder and harder and stuff like that. They get loot drops from it. Are we going to see more stuff like that from Hyper Scape in the future?
As we plan to keep developing the game, we're going to keep developing the extension with it. So once we launch and we're going season to season, as we go with that, you'll expect new extension features each season as well. So we really want to keep these in tie with each other and move them forward. Perfect.
You actually just mentioned seasons, which kind of leads into the next thing. What's the progression of the game look like? Is there going to be a battle pass? Are we going to have cosmetics that are purchasable? Is there going to be a store? Is it all earned game? Talk to me about because like with most BRs, you don't have a character-driven progression, right? You start over every game. So where is the progression? What's the stuff that players can earn? How do they get it?
Hyper Scape is going to be, right now, available in the technical test. We have the 10-tier free battle pass. So that's free for everybody. And you're unlocking some cosmetics only through that. When the game goes live for real, when it's launched, everybody's going to have access to the free tier of the Battle Pass and then a premium tier of Battle Pass. And again, everything that you unlock in there is cosmetic only. We're also going to have like the in-game shop where you can purchase some cosmetics directly.
Perfect. A bunch of people in chat are asking, I'm just going to get a couple easy ones out of the way. Is the game free to play?
Yes, it is.
Will it be cross-play?
We're looking at that at the time being. We're not discussing it right now.
Okay, perfect.
It is worth mentioning there's cross progression also. So that means like if you play on the PlayStation 4, you're going to be able to log in on the PC like right after and have access to all the same cosmetics and everything.
That's all right, just linked through your Ubisoft account, I'm assuming, yes?
Yep.
Perfect. Xbox, PlayStation. Is it going to be on Switch?
We're only talking about Xbox and PlayStation and PC at the minute.
Okay. On PC specifically, in regards to that kind of crossplay and changing over, controller and keyboard mouse lobbies, are they separated? Are they integrated together?
So on the PC, they're together. The controller PC players and keyboard and mouse PC players are together. But for the cross progression or the cross play between the consoles, we're not ready to speak about yet.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. There's going to be people that are like, well, you rage about aim assist and stuff like that. And that's going to be always kind of, obviously controllers, if you play on a controller on PC, there is aim assist, yes?
Yeah, this is something we'll monitor and we want to tweak. Again, we're at the early stages, so this is a really technical test. Are the servers exploding left and right when we launch it? Luckily, it did not.
Well, I'm very thankful
Still
for
a
that.
Band-Aid on the servers and all this stuff. Aim assist is something we'll monitor. For now, there's a very slight assist on the controller, again, to make it more comfortable. We are clearly not at the stage where it's overpowered, so
Yeah.
I think it's good, but we want to keep it balanced, and we'll continue to monitor for sure. And we're listening. Again, we want to make sure we hear you.
I think people will appreciate that for sure. Is there an anti-cheat system in play here? I know the answer, but it's good to hear from you guys.
Yeah, so we use the battle eye implementation from Rainbow Six. So obviously they've worked on that for a long time to make sure that it's solid. We've taken that and we've continued to iterate on top of it. So anti-cheat is a core of the premise. Like, you know, even for this technical test, when we've launched it, we've made sure that the anti-cheat is robust. And that's another thing we'll want to keep evolving as we go. We want to make sure this is as cheat-free as possible with a really, really solid anti-cheat solution from the get-go.
Perfect. I'd love to hear that. I can tell you without a doubt, chat, that there's definitely no cheaters right now because, one, the game literally just came out, and two, if I can drop 21 kills in a single game, you know that there's, you know, nobody's out there cheating.
Good job on this one.
The weapon systems in the game, you have a variety of different weapons, but there's nothing that feels necessarily out of place. Some games, some BRs are plagued by way too many guns that fill a lot of the same role, and some people feel that's maybe too much, maybe not enough. Do you have a plan to add additional weapons over the course of the game's life? Are you going to rotate things in and out? What's that look like for the future of the game?
So the goal for us is to make sure that there's always something fresh and new. So yes, we will introduce new weapons, new hacks also, but the starting point is we want each weapon to feel really unique and different and feel its own niche. For now, again, starting point, we want to see how they behave, how they are balanced or not balanced, and so we'll tweak this. And as we go more live and open the game, we'll introduce more and more mechanics. What we really like is that the building blocks are simple, but then when combined together, it creates all these emergent situations that go completely crazy, where you're in a duel behind a wall with a shotgun, jumping with a ball, and all these things combined, while the chat is voting on effects at the same time.
There are a lot of things happening simultaneously. This is, I think, one of the fastest paced shooters, BRs that I think I've ever played. But with a speed like that, like you talked about, you got people, you know, swinging around in balls and switching to shotguns midair and popping people. All that happening at the same time. A game like this is going to have to run on server infrastructure that can support it. What's that look like? What's the tick rate for the game? A lot of people want to be sure that they're not going to have registration issues, that kind of thing.
That's exactly why we're doing the technical test. We're putting band-aids on our servers right now. The tick rate is currently 60 FPS. That's something we'll continue to monitor, make sure that it's running well. And again, that's the technical test. We'll open it to more and more players as we go. We want to be as open as possible, but we need to take it slowly, step by step, obviously, and then listen to feedback on the tweak of the game before we're ready to launch.
And we took some of the server architecture that the Rainbow Six team had done, and then we've worked and built on top of that because they're at the place where that's really, really solid. So we wanted to make sure we started with a good base and continued to iterate. So we have a really good, game, but with a great service on top. That's super important to us. And as JC said, this is a tech test. This is where we really test these things and make sure that they're really, really solid.
Should we add on to that? Like, we're putting a lot of effort into making sure that the game on the client side is running at 60 frames a second. So there's a ton of optimization that's gone into the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One to make sure that they're running at 60 frames a second at all times. And on the PC side, we have some like graphical options that you can enable or disable to, dynamically scale the resolution and graphics quality to make sure that you're hitting 60 frames a second.
From my little amount of time, and I got a couple both from chat and off the top of my head. From my amount of time playing the game, immediately out of the gate, I turned all the settings all the way up because I'm playing on two 2080 Ti's. I'm not the norm. I'm also not the bottom end. Basically, can this thing run on pretty much anything? Because I see you have scaling resolution. There's a lot of stuff in play here to make it so it's available. Like you can play this on a toaster if the toaster had a screen, right? Is that what you guys are going for everybody, right?
The min spec's fairly low. Like if you turn everything down, you'll still get a good experience on a fairly low min spec, and it should run well on medium range laptops as well. I want to make sure that it's accessible and playable for as wide a base as possible.
Yeah, integrated graphic cards and all.
Like it definitely shows that you're trying to include the entire, because the audience is going to be, is going to be have a wide variety of hardware. So it's good to know that it's not like you have to have a souped up 2019 plus machine. You can run on some older stuff. So pretty much anybody can play.
You can run on something low for sure. We haven't tested the toaster yet, but we'll try and get that one done. I'll come back and let you know.
Perfect.
I'm looking at the min spec here. It's like i3 3200 with a GTX 660.
So like pretty much if you have a machine from the last 8 years, you could probably play the game. Maybe longer back than that too, which is great. As far as servers go, region, is there region locking? Where all is this going to be accessible to? Is it Europe and America are separated? How's that work?
So at the minute, the tech test is available to Western Europe and the US and Canada. That's just for the tech test. The next phases will be fully open to everyone. Basically, you'll be pushed to the closest geographical server to where you're based. The other side of that, though, if you do want to squad up and play with someone, let's say you're in the US and your friends in Europe, you can squad together and then you'll be placed in the server instance that's closest to the squad leader at that point. So you can play cross-region if you want. But generally, if you just free-flow matchmake, you'll be placed in the closest geographical server to you.
Perfect. Skill-based matchmaking, is it in the game?
Not at present time, no. It's something we're looking at how we do matchmaking for the longer term. But again, this is the first round with the tech test, so it's not in this at present time, no.
Is there some form of ping lock? Like you have to be below a certain latency to be able to play on a server?
Yeah, we give you a connection warning at a certain ping amount, and then if you go above even higher, then you'll be kicked out of the server. So you will get some warnings first, and then it will kick you out if you're too high.
Is there going to be in the future, obviously right now there's just one mode. I know at the front screen there are 2 other slots outside of just squad. Are you going to do ranked? Is there going to be a ranking system? Talk to me about that.
JC?
But first, we want to introduce squad and solo, and the goal is really to introduce several modes over time. We have a bunch of surprises even during the tech test, so keep looped. But yeah, the goal is really to make sure that we always have something new, something fresh. Chris is actually working on some exciting game modes, so I'm gonna let him.
Yeah, so every season we're going to be launching new game modes. I think that's expected, but we're trying to do new game modes that players may not have seen before. So there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do in Neo Arcadia because of all that verticality, like the urban environment. We're able to twist the rules in some really cool ways. We won't talk about anything else today other than the Dark Haze. So you will be able to play Dark Haze at some point during technical test. And that's really Neo Arcadia covered in this fog, and that it's like an extreme fog, so it really brings the visibility range right up in. We limit the weapons in that one so that they're close range weapons only, and it's solo. So this is a totally different vibe from what you played today. It's going to really put you on edge, and it's quite tense and exciting.
Love to hear that.
For ranked, I think that's something that we're open to. We're listening for feedback from the community regarding ranked play. So it's somewhere we definitely may go.
If you get disconnected from a game, is it possible to reconnect to the same session?
No, at present time, no.
Is there a plan to add that in the future?
It's something that's on there's a big list of things we'd like to do. I think that's on the big list of things we'd like to do.
I hope people realize too, when they hear that, there's obviously you have a limited number of resources in-house, and you can only dedicate a certain number of people to a certain number of things, and you'll have to prioritize stuff. So hopefully we see certain things take priority over others, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think just on that point, I mean, we want to hear from you and your community and the community in general, and that will help us prioritize as well what we do. What are key things that the community and the players want, and that will help us, prioritize our backlog for things we do in future releases.
Do you have a plan to do a PTR, like a test realm, test server kind of thing, where like maybe you're doing balance passes and you say, here's the next thing, test it out and see what you think?
We've been discussing that if we can bring that online and let people play the next round before we release it out. So that's on the to-do list as well.
Perfect. How long is this technical test?
It runs until the end of day West Coast time on the 7th, so 5 days.
5 days. When is the actual full release of the game?
That we haven't discussed or decided yet.
Cool. It is. It's definitely in its own wheelhouse. Obviously, a lot of people are, there's a lot of BRs out there. There's a lot of competition. And this feels like it's in kind of an interesting spot between a bunch of games. When you design a game like this, and I've asked other people this before chat goes, come on now, you can't ask them that. Is there a certain game on the list that you feel like this is like Hyper Scape is challenging directly? It does feel pace-wise and movement-wise, very similar to Apex. Obviously, there's no buildings, so it's not really a Fortnite, a counter. But where do you feel like this game lands, if you're comfortable talking about that? It's okay to say no. Like I'm not meaning that as like you're trying to take down Apex, but it definitely fits into a spot versus some of these where it's a mix of different games, which is cool to see.
I think for us, we really wanted to give it its own flavor. Like, we wanted to really push on game as a spectacle, like JC discussed, and we wanted to build something that was super fast-paced. Then we brought that together with the Battle Royale. I don't think there's specifically someone we aim at or look at. I think we're really looking to, carve our space and have a game that feels different, than what else is within that realm at the time being, and really, make its own space and make its own kind of type of Battle Royale, to be honest.
What kind of update cadence do you expect in the future?
So once we launch, and there'll be seasons on a X amount on a monthly basis that we'll discuss later. Updates in general will depend on what the updates are for, whether they're maintenance things. We also have the ability on a lot of things to balance them on the server. So we have things like weapon balance and different things on the server, so we can update them in the back end too. So I think it's really going to be based on feedback, what's going on in the game, and then what we feel we need to update outside of general updates for maintenance and other things. So it really depends. Probably I expect for the general updates every month max, maybe less. I think it'll be less in the short term, and then it would be longer term, it'll be more. So we'll see.
Do you intend to have like some games do map specific changes? I'm not looking at like a full map change, like a completely different map, but are you gonna reach for the same kind of in-game narrative that other games have gone for, as like the map will change and evolve because of a story that's based in the game, that kind of thing?
JC, this one's for you.
The game being set in a virtual world, we have a lot of opportunities to change the world easily, transform it, and definitely you'll see that the city itself is going to be one character that evolves season after season. And story-wise, yes, we have many things we want to say. The Hyper Scape is an interesting place in the future, but it also has its problems and its mysteries that we will dive into.
If you look at this game, it definitely looks different than a lot of other BRs. The style, we don't really have something like this elsewhere. Maybe Elysium is more like PUBG. Where's the inspiration drawn from for this style? Because it definitely feels like a mix of Tron and a handful of other things, which I absolutely love.
Honestly, we started really at an early level, past the hey, let's make a game as a spectacle. We went with we wanted to have an experience that was really different, and so we started with the city itself. So it was the starting point. We didn't have a game that was as dynamic at the time. It was slower paced. There was fall damage, all this kind of stuff. But very quickly, the game, when you're building it, it starts to talk to you. It's the people who test it that talk to you, but it's still the game wants to do stuff. It wants to be more dynamic. It wanted to be able to jump from one roof to the other. So introduce the double jump, we introduced all these elements, and we needed a world, a universe to support that. We also didn't want to have something that was too dark, violent, and these kind of things. And the virtual world enabled us to create all of this and also support all the special abilities that we wanted in the game. So the hacks are also a major part of gameplay. We want shooting to be an important part of the game, but we also want to introduce a lot of different types of skills and support creativity in gameplay. And the hacks are a good part of that. And so the world really came together to support this.
Love that. It's incredible to see a game like this pop up very quickly. You guys kind of didn't do, this was a without warning thing. And we've seen this a couple times. Is the intent in the future to have some sort of advertising campaign in some way? Are we going to see commercials on Twitch, or are you going for a out of nowhere kind of sleeper hit?
I think once we're, the initial is really the out of nowhere that we brought it today. We're letting people play it today as well, which I think is super cool. Once we go season-based and we launch a bit more, I think we'll have more season-based trailers and other things around the season to help tell the narrative of each season as it goes together. So I think once we're in a more regular cadence, we'll talk a bit more openly about what we're doing.
Do you plan to have some sort of, what's the way to say this? If you look at like Fortnite, they've done public integration. I don't even know how to phrase it. Like they've done Marvel stuff and Star Wars stuff and that kind of thing. Are we going to see those kind of crossovers in a game like this?
I think
if you know someone at Marvel.
I mean, I could try and hook you guys up if you want me to.
I think for us, within the Hyper Scape, as JC was saying, it's, because it's a virtual world, we can kind of do whatever we want, to be honest. Like, nothing will be out of place and we can bring stuff in the way we want. So it's something we could look at for sure.
The weapon and upgrading system in this game is different than most. Obviously, like I just did on screen, I grabbed the Ripper out of the training area, pick up the Hexfire, and you upgrade them and they get on. You see on screen, for anybody that doesn't understand, it says mag size, increase right there, and the last one right there, damage and mag size. That's different than what we've seen from a lot. The weapon systems like that, where'd that come from? Why that? Because I want to make sure that people understand you have your eyes on what their biggest complaints are in other games. And you're taking that into account here. Why do you do the weapons and hack upgrades like that?
Yeah, so this is the fusion system that you're seeing. What we wanted to get out of this is we wanted to radically simplify the way that players are upgrading their arsenal throughout the match. We just wanted one simple universal system also to connect the weapons and the hacks together. So, really the goal of this is to match the fast-paced, free-flowing nature of the game. We want you to spend more time jumping across rooftops and battling each other rather than spending time in the inventory fiddling with attachments, trying to figure out what matches what. So that's where the fusion comes from. But also we want to make sure that players do like going for loot. So it's good to have something that keeps you drawing in to invest your time to scavenge these buildings and other players. So that's why we do fusion. And everything has 5 levels of upgrade. For the weapons, like you said, it's magazine and damage. For the hacks, they do different things. So because each hack is so different, the effects are different, but mostly it's the cooldown time. So that lets you kind of start to reuse the hacks even faster and faster. So if you want the ultimate advantage in a match, it's really worth your time to try and get everything up to the maximum level.
When people saw that, definitely, as Flom and I were playing those last couple games, it turned into literally calling out. And for anybody that didn't see it in the bottom left, when it doesn't show it right now because I'm the only player on the team, but you can see what other gear your teammates are running, and if they're yellow, they're already maxed. So you can call out. You can know just based on what's on the UI, easy ways to communicate, and just use middle mouse click to tag those items that your teammates also need to pick up, which is great. I love seeing stuff like that. You're making it easy for players who maybe don't have a microphone, and this will carry over on the console release too, for them to be able to play and communicate with their teammates, which is great. But accessibility is a huge thing. Is there a plan for, let's say, on-screen audio notifications for players that are deaf?
So we do have a large CVAA rollout to make sure that we're doing well on that front. So some of it's in the game now, and there'll be more coming as we continue to release the game. So yeah, accessibility is one of the key pillars too. So we'll make sure we address that in the coming releases as well.
Do you have Sorry, go ahead.
We also have player barks, so whenever characters tend to comment on what they do, you can use that also.
Just to add on to there, like by the very nature of the design, we're really trying to make sure that it's a game that's promoting the team play just by the rules itself. And so that's why you have that equipment system that you mentioned. You can see what your teammates need without the need for voice and chat. And you can use like the ping system to both ping and dibs on that equipment. So even into the revive loop itself, the way that you don't get eliminated. And so you may not be as frustrated as in other games where you're kind of kicked out of the match if your teammate didn't help you at the right moment. So by having a more generous team philosophy for the gameplay, it's easier to play without a lot of direct communication. It's one of our objectives for sure.
Somebody in chat had there are a couple different things were brought up. I apologize, chat, if I forget something that someone had mentioned. Let's talk weapons just real quick, the way that they shoot and handle. I'm assuming if it's not an explosion-based weapon, so we're talking like the Hexfire, the Ripper, the Snipe, all the bullet-based weapons, they are all hit scan, correct?
Yes.
Okay, there's no bullet travel time for people that are trying to figure out how to play the game. Then you've got the Salvo, the Komodo, and the Skybreaker, which, big fan of the Skybreaker, by the way. These all have travel time or projectiles that can be tracked. Anybody that's trying to figure out how to play, there you go. Which weapons have any sort of any bloom on them? I know the Hexfire, you can obviously see just from where the shots are going right there, chat, that there is bloom. It's within the 4 corners, even when you ADS. The Ripper, though, if you're ADSing, That is that perfectly accurate at the center dot every time?
Yes.
Good.
So really the point is when you're not ADSing, but it depends on the weapon actually. When you're not ADSing, you get some spread. If you're ADSing, the weapons get precise, but they have some screen recoil, so it's up to you to compensate the recoil. And for something like the Hexfire, it has because it's a high rate of fire weapon, it has some level of spread even in ADS.
Oh, it would be wild if that thing didn't have any spread. Believe me, I would be laughing the whole time. Not gonna lie. The pattern for that bloom or the recoil on the like when I'm ADS on the Ripper, it does have a little bit of bounce left and right. Is there a pattern to any of that, or is it totally random?
So normally it's not randomized. If I remember well, I'm answering a bit out of my comfort zone, but it is made to be repeatable.
Okay, I'm testing it just to see if I can figure out if there's a pattern to like try and maintain a headshot perfect accuracy every single time. It'll take I think take some getting used to, but the guns, I feel like based on my playing so far, all the weapons in the game feel really smooth. Everything operates as it should, which for a new game is, I think, pretty typical at release. As we get a bigger player pool, do you expect there to be some sort of gameplay impact? Is there going to be a latency issue, something like that we run into? And if so, what should we expect from that?
Honestly, no. We've already seen full matches. So for now, on the core gameplay, a match being full is going to be the same all the time. We're still monitoring servers and all these things. I mean, again, it's the starting point of the tech test. We want to really make sure that the service is super solid. We might have some crashes, we might have some issues, and we are monitoring them. We want to make sure that when we open the gates, the experience is super smooth for a majority of players. And really, we're super thankful for people to jump in and test it.
I am thoroughly enjoying the game and then some. And you guys have, I think, produced an exceptional piece of BR here that has some it's got aspects to it that I think kind of nobody has really seen before. The revive mechanic and being able to continue playing even if you die is really cool. Just the way that the upgrades work. Like you said before, you wanted a game that fills a role that's different from everything else in its own ways, and I think you've done that. Somebody brought this up in chat. Talk about audio, directional, vertical. How is that differentiated? Is there a distance limit for being able to hear things? Talk to me about the audio system in the game.
So none of us are the audio directors, so it's a little bit very detailed for us. But for sure, the audibility is something that's an ongoing balancing. So we're constantly trying to tune the audios to make sure that you're able to hear enemies engaging. Like we want you to be able to identify fights a couple blocks away so that you have that opportunity to find them. Also, tuning the footsteps is a big challenge for us. Like we want to make sure that players are understanding if they're hearing somebody on the rooftops versus on the streets versus inside the buildings. So yeah, it's like a constant dance for us, trying to get the interiors with the exteriors with the rooftops, like all of the audio as clear as possible in there, and it's ongoing.
Yeah, I mean, we're really pushing the audio gives, as Chris says, good player feedback. So things like, hey, someone came down in their insertion pod next to you, you should be able to clearly know that someone's landed next to you just by sound. So a lot of it's in, the footsteps, the position, understanding where the battles are, but there's more room for advancement on that. So again, that's one of the things I think I'd love some feedback on during technical tests so we can continue to evolve it and make it more awesome than it is today.
Do you have any plan for a modding system at all in the future? I know some people in chat have asked, and typically with BRs you don't really see that, but is there a plan to put something like that in the game?
I think that's on the big list as well, but I think it's closer to the bottom, so maybe, I don't know, we'll see.
Maybe it's better than no, chat. Maybe it's better than no. You guys have answered as many questions, I think, as there's like a standard repertoire of questions when we do these kind of interactions, and we've gone through, as far as I could tell, chat, pretty much everything that we would typically go in on. Somebody did bring up, is there a way to report bugs or anything like that? Like one of the things I've experienced already is when going for a revive, there are some times where it just stops for no reason. I'm not sure if the character model is moving and there's like a distance disconnect or something like that. I've had that happen a number of times. Is there a way to report those bugs? So you sit there and you go for the revive, which is crazy because it's not letting me do it. There we go.
That specific one we've actually fixed. So the next test we do out, that won't happen anymore. So for that one, it's good. For bugs, I mean, there's the Discord channel. There's other places to raise things, and then we'll look longer term how we do better interaction from the community towards us in terms of the high level issues we need to fix.
Do you have some plan for an in-game integrated stat list for your player and maybe leaderboards, that kind of thing?
That's we have a big pillar for the future around competitive, and that fits within that. So it's not in just yet, but that's on the list of things we'd like to do in the longer term.
How do events play out in game if there's no Twitch integration, no streamer in the game? How are those events chosen?
Yes, so maybe you saw her, but we have the AI game master, Grace. She's the person that you see in that training map. And so she's kind of running the show of the Battle Royale in every game. And she's going to be the one who, every once in a while, she's going to prompt for those Twitch votes. But if there are no viewers or streamers in a match, she's going to automatically pick one by herself randomly. And what is interesting, I think, to point out here is that the events that you get from a streamer version versus just her by herself are different sets of events. So by having streamers in your match, you're actually getting new events unlocked in the game.
Perfect. Cool. Well, unless somebody in chat can think of something else interesting to ask, I mean, that's pretty much everything that I had written down or chat had thrown at me. Guys, you guys have been fantastic and thank you very much for giving people an opportunity to jump in and play. Obviously, there's going to be people in chat that are asking questions that I've already answered. I would encourage you guys to go and try and spread some love around, tell other people what's going on, that kind of thing. Is there a way to report cheaters?
So we don't currently have that, but as soon as the game launches, we're going to be... So for technical tests, there's not a way, but it's coming as soon as the game officially launches.
Yeah, we'll have a larger player reporting system to be able to report people for cheating and general, offensive/bad behavior, because we want to make sure that Hyper Scape's a fun, cheat-free, and safe place to play.
What about, I think along the same lines, and just in general to reporting players, is there going to be a name filter of some sort? Do you have one built in already? Because those kind of things, especially right now, are pretty dang important.
Yeah, you need to get a Ubisoft account, as part of it to be able to play. So there's a name filter as part of Ubisoft account within there, and then there's name filters obviously on console platforms as well. So most things should be caught by that, and then things that aren't will be able to be reported.
One thing that was brought up that I think I can show people, assuming I can actually get into the settings. There we go. People had asked if there's a streamer mode, that kind of thing. Right here is what you're looking for, chat. Scramble enemy names and hidden matchmaking delay. So they do have those functions and stuff in there already, which is great. Let's see here. Any minimum amount of viewers the streamer has to have to qualify for event selection? As far as I know, no. Even if you just have one vote, that still counts. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And if there's several streamers in the same match, all the votes go towards the same server, so everyone has one voice regardless.
I don't think this will be the case, just based on how fast-paced the game is, but there's no intent for vehicles, that kind of thing?
Never say never.
Okay. My apologies. That's true. So there you go. Pretty much everything else I'm seeing in chat is repeats of stuff we've already asked. So one last time, guys, thank you very much for taking the opportunity out of your day to have a conversation about Hyper Scape. Like you said before, for anybody in chat, the test is 5 days long, goes until you said noon Pacific on the 7th.
End of day, so it'll be 11:59 p.m. PST on the 7th. There
you go. Right now, just on PC, but whenever release happens to be, it'll be on console, Xbox, and PlayStation as well. Correct?
Yep, correct.
There you go. Guys, thanks so much. Chris, JC, Graeme, y'all are fantastic. Please enjoy the rest of your day. And Mel, thanks for hooking me up with these guys to be able to talk about. It's seriously one of the fastest BRs I think I've ever played.
Cool. Thanks, man. Enjoy the rest of the plan.
I'm gonna track down Flom and go beat up some more nerds with this this combo I've been running. So you guys enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
Bye bye. Have fun.
Take care.
Good one.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you very much.
Youth code dark